Hey guys, hope that you all are doing great. So I'm out here in my backyard. We've redone it recently and we have been enjoying it quite a bit. One of the last things that we are doing though is putting in some trees. And when we decided what trees we wanted to put in, I was like, we got to have fruit trees. I want fruit trees. So we got us a nectarine a couple years ago and it's finally coming in good. We got us a Pluery, which is a cross between a plum and an apricot. No, a plum and a cherry. And then we also have a Pluot, which is the plum and apricot mix. And then we also got us an apple tree, a lime tree. And then the one I'm probably the most excited about is this one right here, my lemon tree. Uh, and I've been thinking about this idea of lemons, right? I love lemons. And I think back when all this started with the pandemic, one of the first videos that we put out with the church was with Lauren, and he talked about, when life gives you lemons, what do? You make lemonade. I also saw another video of Matthew McConaughey saying the same thing, and it was a great video of him just talking about making lemonade with the lemons that life gives you sometimes. And it's kind of interesting to me because I was thinking, I like lemons, right? I like putting them in my lemonade, of course. There's nothing better than a freshly squeezed lemonade that you can drink. Uh, and I love having lemons. You put them in your tea. Margaret Ellen loves to put them on fish. There's a lot of uses for lemons, right? And sometimes we look at lemons and we think, oh, they're sour. I don't like that. But really, it's all about the perspective that you have with them, right? And it's important what our perspective is in life. When I think about having the right perspective, there's a certain passage that comes to mind in Acts. And if you turn over to Acts chapter 5, you'll read about the apostles going on trial again towards the end of that chapter. And they've already been in trial before. They've already been in, causing problems for the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and they are just getting madder and madder at the apostles and the disciples of Christ. And they're just furious that they won't stop talking about him and won't stop preaching about him and won't stop telling about him. And so Gamaliel gives them some advice here. He says, look, if these guys aren't of God, then all this is going to die down very quickly. Don't worry about it. But if they are with God, then we want to make sure that we're not opposing them, because if God's on their side, we don't need to be fighting them. And so they kind of take his advice, but they strictly charge the apostles, right? They said, you are not going to teach anymore. And then they flog them. They beat them. They hurt them. And how do the apostles react? Well, we're told how the apostles react in verse 40. It says, after they called in the apostles and had them flogged, they ordered them not to speak in the name of Jesus and released them. Then they went out from the presence of the Sanhedrin, rejoicing that they were counted worthy to be treated shamefully on behalf of the name. Every day in the temple and in various homes, they continued teaching and proclaiming the good news that Jesus is the Messiah. It was all about their perspective, right? They could have been hurt, they could have been sad, they could have been upset, they could have been mad. But what did they choose? They chose joy in that time. They were excited that they could be counted worthy to join in the suffering of Christ. It was all about their perspective. And we need to have that same perspective as the apostles had, this perspective of joy and of hope. It's a perspective that only us as Christians can truly understand. It's a perspective that only we can have in following Christ, because we have a hope. We have a hope that one day we can rise again, no matter what this world throws at us, no matter if it's a pandemic, no matter it's the loss of a loved one, no matter if it's people persecuting us, no matter if it's people making fun of us, no matter what it is in this world that is thrown at us because of our Christian beliefs, or just thrown at us in general because we're humans and we live in a fallen world. No matter what happens, we can have a different perspective. And so I want to encourage you, if you're sitting here today and you're watching this as a follower of Christ, have the right perspective. Have that perspective to know that God's got your back and that God is going to take care of you in the end, and that you have a hope. And no matter what this life throws at you, it may be a nasty life. We may have a life that is full of sorrow and tears and pain. The Christian life is not a life that's promised to be glorious and on this earth and easy and comfortable. It is a life that can be painful, that can be hurtful sometimes, but we can have a different perspective because of what Christ has done for us. So remember that. As a Christian, we can have a different perspective and have that different perspective. Because when we do, the world's going to see it, the world's going to ask about it, and we can share with them the reason why we have joy, even in the face of such great trials. You guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks.